Horizon Forbidden West is an excellent, beautiful, and very well done sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. If you haven't played the first one, I would strongly recommend you do. It was a great game, and you're going to want to experience that story in preparation for this one. I'm going to assume you're familiar with Zero Dawn here, so if you haven't, go ahead, knock out Zero Dawn right now. I'll wait. Got it done? I was right? Awesome game. Now it's time to talk about the sequel. I spent a lot longer on this than I normally do, putting in around 40 hours to finish it. If you want to see some gameplay, check out the live stream. Here shortly, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the story, whether the kids can watch, and the various mechanics introduced, ultimately rating this game and placing it on a shelf.
It's a big storm picking up out there.
Yeah. And they're getting stronger.
Taking place 6 months after the exciting conclusion of Zero Dawn, the world has started to die. Vicious storms tearing up the land, noxious weeds taking over the greenery, and Aloy has taken it upon herself to try and stop the chaos and save Earth. Along with some help from old friends and new, Aloy follows a promising lead, taking her far away from home, deep into the Forbidden West, to hopefully find a solution.
It finished charging. It's covered in plasma.
It's a very fascinating game, with the sounds and the bright lights and some very dinosaur-like machines you have to hunt and fight. My kids really enjoyed it. But there were some places where combat involves fighting to the death with other humans. Not terribly graphic, no blood or anything, but with the proper sneak attack, Aloy, she'll snap a few necks. And there were a couple curse words. Nothing too colorful, mind you, but it's there.
Finishing this the hard way. I need to take this thing down.
Just like the first game, Aloy will have access to quite a few different weapons and clothes, along with coils and weaves to install, increasing stats like power, defense, or some abilities. Starting out, Aloy will only be equipped with a spear and a hunter bow. Shortly in, the plethora of different weapons will be introduced and added to the inventory, with a fun little tutorial window explaining the weapons. Some gained are specific quests, while others are just bought from a vendor. Aloy can equip up to 6 weapons on her weapon wheel at once for a quick change in the middle of a fight. It was best to have a lot of different elemental attacks depending on the enemies. Her spear is the only weapon not on the weapon wheel, as it's always equipped and ready to go. I felt like melee combat was a lot more viable in the sequel. At least, I used it a lot more. There is a skill tree dedicated to melee combat. I'll get into skill trees later. But anyway, it adds some different combos that help with mobility, and she almost always hits her mark. It also builds up for a resonator blast. After charging up, the spear can leave an energized spot on an enemy. When an arrow hits that spot, it explodes for some decent damage. Sometimes even knocking the enemy down for a bit. The gear in Forbidden West worked quite a bit differently than the previous title. Here, weapons will have different shots available, but not depending on the rarity. Instead, it's predetermined and only obtained after upgrading said weapon. The only thing rarity affected was base stats and how many slots were available for weaves or coils. To upgrade a piece of gear, a certain amount of metal shards and a few machine parts were needed to be used at a workbench. And pouches can only be upgraded at workbenches now. No more field upgrades. What I really liked about working on upgrades, or even wanting to purchase something specific, I could make it a quest, essentially, by turning it into a job. So I would have quest markers taking me to the area most likely to hunt down the parts I need for an upgrade. When using my focus to identify the different parts of a machine, an icon actually shows up next to the pieces I need. And the focus even goes as far as telling me whether the part will be destroyed on death or not, so I can knock it off before I even start the fight. Speaking of the focus, that got a nice little quality of life upgrade. Instead of going all in, walking slowly, looking around, there's now a focus flash that quickly scans the surrounding area. It doesn't mark enemies or anything, but it does highlight interactable objects and loot lying around, even giving the color of rarity of the loot within. So it's pretty hard to miss some good loot as long as you're in the vicinity. A few more quality of life changes in the second game was mounted gameplay. I honestly have no idea if they really changed anything or if it's just a newer platform, but it didn't feel near as clunky and painful as it used to be. And my absolute favorite thing added was the option to change pickup animations. I could completely turn them off. I could even turn it on auto loot. As long as there was room in my backpack, Aloy would pick up any stick or flower she walked over.
Didn't say. Only that a backup might be here. We need to find a way.
Sadly, with some quality of life upgrades, some things have been taken out of the game. One thing I really missed was the ability to whistle enemies towards me when I was hiding in the bushes. But now there doesn't seem to be a limit to how many rocks Aloy can hold, so I could use that to bring them in. There were also a few ability changes. Forbidden West felt like I needed to think a little bit more about how to move around and fight, instead of giving me some awesome overpowered abilities to take advantage of. Not a bad thing, just a little more involvement in gameplay. Now, onto the skill trees. There are 6 different trees to fill out with skill points, each increasing the weapons or skills in them. Looking at the trees, it's pretty easy to figure out what you would like to fill out first, depending on playstyle. And there may be a lot of skill points needed for everything, but the points are handed out like crazy in this game. When you level, when you help someone with a quest, sometimes even just finding something on the ground. It didn't take long before I was throwing points in trees I was not interested in. Every tree will give access to special weapon attacks and Valor surges. All weapons will have a stamina bar used to launch a special attack like notching extra arrows or a big explosive arrow after you unlock the skill. So, unlike the last one, there's no more spamming 3 arrows in a shot over and over and over again. The stamina slowly builds up after use, but it also gets taken away as Aloy gets hit, making some fights a lot more painful than they need to be, if you're not careful and don't dodge attacks at all. Valor surges are extremely powerful moves that can make the difference in a fight. Each tree has 2 surges related to that tree. When used, the Valor bar depletes all the way to empty, but can be refilled in a variety of ways obtained in a skill tree. There were quite a few different obstacles Aloy had to overcome along the way. With them came some new equipment she needed to figure out, like what she dubbed a pullcaster, giving her the ability to pull down specific walls, or even pull herself up to climbing points like Spider-Man. But with that did come that annoying deal where a point is found early on, but she can't get past it yet. However, I did like how it became a point of interest on the map, so I could find those places later after I learned how to open it up. I would say it takes in between 20 to 30 hours to beat the main story of the game, but there is a lot to do besides the main quest. There were so many side quests everywhere, a few collectible quests that span the entire map, even some mini-games to pass the time. Aloy can race on a charger in some sort of death race, gaining experience along the way. There's even a tactics game called Machine Strike, involving different machine pieces that had different abilities. I would venture to guess this game could easily eat up 100 hours in one play.
Then you go on and do that. And that's it. You win.
How long have your people been here?
About a year, I think.
The Burning Shores DLC was short and sweet. Taking place in a totally different area from the main map, I beat the story after about 6 hours. They only added a couple new machines to deal with, some more side quests, another collectible, and the entire area was kind of small. I would say it's worth it if just for the story alone. If you beat the first 2 games, you'll definitely want to see what kind of trouble Aloy finds on the Burning Shores. Not to mention, you can't even access the Burning Shores until the main story is complete. So you may want to beat the main story before you decide whether or not you want to move forward.
They tried to make it look like these soldiers had a last stand against the dinosaurs.
That's ridiculous.
Now, onto the section I know you've all been waiting for, the final ratings for Horizon Forbidden West. If you've seen my review for the first one and watched my playthrough, you can probably guess how this is going to go. But I'm still taking you through my whole rigmarole, so let's get to it. Visually, oh my gosh, I cannot get over how pretty everything was. I really thought I would get used to it, but it never ceased to amaze me throughout the entire game. I am so impressed with the PlayStation 5 and how this game played. It's getting a 5. I liked this story more than the first, only because I didn't really need a beginning to explain the main characters and lay out the play area. It's not too long, not very predictable, and entertaining every step of the way. Another 5. Gameplay was great. The only issues I ran into was trying to figure out how the layout of a PlayStation 5 controller works. I'm so used to mouse and keyboard or Xbox controllers, it was a small learning curve for me. But still smooth and easy to figure out. We're going with 5. Horizon Forbidden West does offer a new game plus. Not really my style. I honestly feel like I could enjoy running around the land for a very long time after the main story was done. Maybe eventually getting bored enough to start a new game plus. So I feel like it's worthy of a 5. How much fun did I have? Look at this grin. It was awesome. I only lost my cool once, and that ultimately boiled down to a skill issue. I love this game and highly recommend the entire Horizon series. So obviously, this is another 5. And that means it's going right up there in the special reserve. It's too bad I don't have anything higher. This game was better than the first. Any kind of odd hiccups or weird game mechanics from Zero Dawn were resolved in Forbidden West. As of right now, you can only get Forbidden West for PlayStation 4 or 5, but I hear word that maybe by 2025, it could be released on PC. So go ahead and hold out, if you can. For now, I'm done with this one, and it's time to move on to the next. I will see you there. Bye!